You are listening to Directions from a Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. I am your host, Shanel Scott. I'm a psychic medium and energy healer who has been supporting those on a spiritual journey for over a decade. I'm your tour guide into the world of the unknown, showing you that the magic of the universe is at your fingertips. I believe spirituality is simple and fun, and this podcast will make it easily accessible, giving you the real talk on all things divine and spiritual, helping you to step into the flow. Manifesting your dreams because we all deserve to be living our best life. Are you ready for an adventure? Hello, sunshines, and welcome to a new episode of Directions from a Spiritual Tour Guide podcast. Now, you might be wondering what a tour guide is. A spiritual tour guide, that is someone that helps you on this spiritual journey, and that is me. My name is Shanel. I am your host and your spiritual tour guide for this journey into witch wounds. I feel very blessed to be on this journey and to be able to mentor and support and guide others. It's funny, for years I have pushed against the word coach, and I'm starting to embrace it a little bit more, but that's why I picked spiritual tour guide. I've been doing a lot of work for a very, very long time, over a decade, professionally in the spiritual realm, and a lifetime of doing spiritual work personally. And one thing that comes up a lot is past lives. And in particular, I want to talk about the past lives of witch wounds today. And I don't want to make this episode about a get out of jail free card, because that's not what this is. This is not a free pass. This is very much about us owning, but doing something about it. Just because something has a past life attachment or a spiritual attachment to it doesn't mean that we can just be like, oh, that's spiritual, let it go. It has meaning and it has purpose, and it's about acknowledging those things. That also doesn't mean that there aren't things in our own lives currently that are also attached to the same energies as this witch wound that comes up. So I want you to be mindful and connected when it comes to this topic of conversation. It is one that I don't feel we need to take lightly, but at the same time, we can't blame our problems in this lifetime on the lives that we had before this. I'm just checking in. I can feel my guides stepping forward and like tickling my throat that they want to talk. So I'm just doing a check-in here just to see what's up. They're telling me that this is also this piece of it happens to these witch wounds move in different directions and different realities and different dimensions. So this is really like big and powerful. The more that I have explored starseed energy, galactic energy, the more that I have an awareness that this is beyond just what in history we considered witches. So let's talk about that first, because I think we get caught up on this witch wound factor being what we think of as witchcraft and typical witchy things. And this wasn't necessarily the case. This was people that did plant-based medicine. This was Wicca or pagans that used the earth and worshipped the earth. This was women who stood up for themselves and had a voice, or were intelligent, or were educated or interested in fields that were not typically fields that women were privy to. Remember, for decades, way more than decades, for a very long time, women didn't have the same rights as men. And this isn't a feminist podcast. I am not doing a rah-rah here. I think that it's really important to be aware that a woman who is interested in, say, the stars and astronomy may be considered a witch because she's interested in something that she should not be. So again, this isn't necessarily about black magic or casting spells and curses that have negative intentions. That's not this at all. Some of this was very pure and positive, herbology, using the natural causes, the natural land to heal things that, again, people were afraid of. What happened was that when things were unknown, and we still fall into this category today, when things are unknown, we move into fear. We move to a place of needing to get control back of the situation so that we understand or we know what is happening. We often move to fear instead of being present in the discomfort of what is new or different. So this persecution of witches, and yes, we'll use air quotes around witches, back in the day, back in history, the Salem witch trials and so on and so forth, wasn't necessarily because these people were witches, but these were people moving out of fear. And you can only imagine that in a time where we didn't know a lot, that people moved out of fear of what these people were doing and if they could harm them or, what damage were they going to do? Were they going to put a curse on them? There was a huge impact of religion, superstitions, all sorts of things like that brought these things to the surface and really created this upheaval, this fear-based kind of dealings with. And I don't want to just say that it was kind of the Salem witch trial era. This has been happening for generations and generations. This may have been, different time, different place, but that same piece comes up, this piece of fear that steps in of the unknown. Taking the fear that we create around the word witch. It has such a negative connotation, and it should not, because there are so many beautiful, wonderful, good witches out there that have nothing to do with negativity, that are there to create healing and health and prosperity and abundance and a lot more love and joy and all sorts of things. So this persecution piece came about to gain control, to have that male dominance again. And yes, males were also persecuted for the same sorts of things, but mostly it was women. But it just created this energy. I know for myself, even for a long time, I hesitated to tell people what I did because I didn't want to be judged or feared. I always keep what I do for a living separate than, my paycheck jobs, because I don't want people to go, oh, you have a witch working for you. I don't want that negative connotation affecting the places that I work, even though I don't care. I have no judgment. I have no hesitation these days. I will yell it at the mountaintop what I do. I just keep it separate for professional reasons, of course. Let's get into the witch wound piece of it, though. Because we have had this experience, this history, that it is not safe to be intuitive, to be psychic, to be a healer, to use energy, to do things that are different. People get upset, get fearful, begin to try to protect themselves against something that they don't need to protect themselves against. These things have created an energy that has carried forward They're reminding me again, all times and space, all dimensions and all realities, that this energy has carried forward. It has given those of us that have these past lives or carry these lines of skills or gifts or the things we work with. You know, sometimes people even consider like an acupuncturist or a naturopath these days, that's just witchcraft, right? It's not Western medicine, so it's witchcraft. But what it brings up is a lot of feelings and emotions. So typically the witch wounds will bring up things like not feeling safe or secure. Our personal or physical safety is in danger. The fear of being persecuted, killed, jailed, judged, harmed for what you do, that it's not safe to do the work that you do, that it has to be hidden or kept a secret, that it's not safe to do that work out in public, fear of what people are going to say. I think there's a lot of people in general that just has a fear of judgment, and we want to be validated, right? We want to feel good about the things we do, and there is that piece there. It can bring up a lack of trust, hiding to stay safe, suppressing the self, or lying to stay safe. Again, you can hear the word there, safety. Like that is the common denominator often. Guilt can come up. Also just this piece of like, not safety, but what's the word I'm looking for? When we, almost like there's shame. There we go. Shame around what it is that we do. For me personally, I have been shown a lot of past lives for myself that helped me to understand why I hesitated to really step into my gifts and to be able to feel confident in my gifts. And when I started to understand some of that, I started to understand what was happening in my life. That some of these things were connected, and not just to the experiences of the past life, but also experiences that I was having in my current life. Again, these witch wounds are not an excuse or a free pass for not doing the work. You still have to do the work around it because it's all connected. Shame, worthiness, safety, and it comes in different forms. You know, the safety of it for me also came from just a generational piece of having family members talking about needing to have a paycheck job, not being able to be an entrepreneur because that's not safe. The security of money around things. So then that safety, that shame, and all of that comes up in a different way, and it's still related to this lifetime. When I was able to witness that, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of the persecution, and again, for me, the lifetimes didn't come up with any kind of black magic. It came from knowing how to use the land, knowing how to use natural things to heal, knowing, being intuitive and being connected to the earth. Those were the things that came up for me. It wasn't like cauldrons and spells and witchcraft and bad spells and curses. Like, that's not what came up for me. And it was interesting because I've done a lot of clearing around that. I've done a lot of work around that to understand it more deeply in myself and my current lifetime and, clearing that away. But it was interesting because as I was planning this podcast and doing some of the notes, I actually did a session through Hay House. They had like a free thing and I was like, I'm going to listen to that while I work today. And it was cool because one of the Hay House authors that came on, and I apologize, I can't remember her name, but I'll try to stick it down in the show notes. She did a activation where we went into the Akashic Records, which is for those of you who don't know what the Akashic Records are, those are the records of our lives. So it has our past lives attached to it. It has things going on in our current lives. It helps us to see the future, all sorts of beautiful things that can be accomplished by accessing your Akashic Records. So in this case, she was having us access the Akashic Records for a past life that was affecting this life. And the life came out for me fast and furious. I could see this beautiful priestess who was standing in her workshop. There was dried herbs all over the place, hanging from the ceiling. There was definitely this awareness of intuition and crystals and magic. But again, it felt very positive. It very, very powerful, a very powerful healing kind of vibe. And then out of nowhere, she was stabbed in the heart, and I could see her dying on the floor. And it totally sent me into like a bit of a panic. And then I was like, no, this is a past life, and I'm just meant to see this in this moment and to detach from it. Often, as it was in the case of this situation of seeing the priestess who was dying, because she was stabbed and left there to die. I couldn't see who stabbed her or what the circumstances around it were, none of those things, but there was just this awareness that this happened. In moments like that, we often call it for help, but also we often make a promise to ourselves that in the next lifetime, I will not do that. Or in this lifetime, I will not do this. You know, maybe her promise was, you know, if I make it through, I will never do this again. I will just disappear to someplace safe, right? So it's the promises that we make in our past lives that carry forward into this lifetime and can affect us as well. Again, it will be related to things we are experiencing in this lifetime that also need to be healed. It will give us insight into those situations, but it isn't an excuse not to do the work and do the healing around it. So understanding all of these things will help us to deal with the things happening in this lifetime, or hopefully will give you an awareness and an opening of, messages that will help us to deal with this lifetime. For me, what's really important is acknowledging those past lives, the lesson that was learned through that past life, and potentially the promise that was made, and to release that vow or promise, to break it, to release it, and set yourself free from that. This is, it's a gift. It is totally a gift. So make sure that you are releasing in all times and spaces, in all directions of time and space, in all realities and all dimensions. It is important to let it go in so many areas to release us from the energy of that. When we do that, often what we're dealing with in the current lifetime becomes a little bit easier to contend with and deal with and heal from. I'm very grateful from a lot of the things that I've learned about my past lives, because they have helped me to understand the situations that I'm experiencing in this lifetime, and being able to do the healing work around that to be able to release and move forward. So again, I'm just going to say this one more time because I think it's really important. This is not a free pass. Witch wounds are not a free pass. It is about understanding and doing the work around the witch wounds that you personally have, and to be able to clear those things. So it's interesting, right? Like, it's very interesting to see how the lifetimes that we had before can affect this lifetime. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that you've had past lives. Some people have not. Sometimes this is your first go around on the earth, and you don't have those past lives. So that's something to bear witness to. But often there is connections to the past lives, or lives that we are living simultaneously someplace else in another dimension. I know we could go down a rabbit hole here and go right wild and crazy. Galactic witch wounds. Learned about that recently. That was interesting. But we're just going to leave it there with witch wounds. I hope you found this helpful. And maybe you can start to see how maybe some of the things you're experiencing are connected to your past and how you can make those connections to start the healing process or to start to understand where things are coming from to be able to move forward, both in your past life and your current life. If you are curious about past lives, that's something that comes up in my work. I'm actually in the process of getting signed up for doing a past life regression course because I think it's so interesting and it's calling to me. I haven't done any training in a few years now, but this one is really calling to me because I think it's a powerful tool that we can use. So that will be coming up. I think that's going to be in the spring. So it's a little ways away, but I'm excited about it. So yeah, if you're curious, like I said, past life stuff does come up in the work that I do with clients, both business intuition and personal readings on a regular basis, because it helps us to understand things. So yeah, book your own. Check it out. Links are in the description and the show notes here so that you can see more about ways that you can work with me, things that I offer. I have an amazing group called Divine Map. That's an online community that we meet up 4 times a month in person. Those are mostly recorded, not everything. And there is a library of resources for you from card spreads, readings, healing meditations, yoga nidra, mentoring, workshops, all sorts of things in there that you can have access to. And it is on sale right now. You can save. It is normally $29 a month Canadian. And right now it is $297 for the whole year. So check it out. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening all about witch wounds. I hope you are having a witchy, ghosty, creepy, Halloween-y month so far. Not sure what we're going to talk about next week, but I feel like we've got to keep up this Halloween theme. So we'll see. From my heart and soul to yours, have an amazing rest of your week. We'll see you next time. Bye.